Hey, everybody, welcome back to HMBA 614 Health Services Management. I'm your professor, Professor Roberts, and this is week 8, the final week of our course. So I'm looking forward to seeing some of your comments based on the last discussion post, and I'm really impressed with the work you guys have done throughout the entire semester. So let's dive into it and make it happen here. So we got our agenda here. So we got reading. We have 17, 18, and 19 are the in the book. 17 project management, pharma, and medical device manufacturing. So that's kind of relevant to the course. Chapter 18, sustainability and green effort in healthcare. So how is healthcare industries considering sustainability and the green effort? It has changed quite a bit over the years. So, chapter 19, application of agile in the healthcare environment. So, many of you guys might be thinking, finally, we're going to talk about how this all relates to healthcare. And honestly, yeah, we're finally getting to it. But you guys needed the foundation before you can really talk about this stuff. And then we'll also talk about discussion 8 here. Chapter 17. So, project management within pharma and medical device manufacturing. Every industry does project management slightly different, and pharma is one major industry that does things different as because of all the regulation that goes along with it. So it is a specialized area of project management, and many of the states are mandated by the government, whichever government it may be. It might be a foreign government when you're thinking of the United States, it might be a domestic government, it could be all sorts of things. It could be the Food and Drug Administration here in the United States. It could be other agencies that do similar work in other countries, but they all mandate certain things. And so your project management experience may have to adjust based on what the local regulations are. So, for example, drug trials for here in the United States, there's many rounds of testing. But before you can even do testing, you have to prove, at least on paper, and maybe with animal testing, whether you like it or not, animals are sometimes a good substitute for humans, at least in the initial stages, to see if a drug is even worth pursuing to human trials. Now, like like I said, animal testing is it varies on your opinion. Some people really dislike animal testing, other people find it necessary. However, it depends on your industry. What are you going to be testing? So, meeting all the requirements of government before you're allowed to test on humans is a big thing that government is looking out for. The health of the population, so that we don't get adversely affected by a test. Now, of course, any company that's manufacturing drugs or pharmaceuticals of any type, whether it's topicals or anything, they have to be able to make sure it's safe. So we there's all these mandates, and we have to comply with them if we're in one of these industries. And while I keep mentioning pharma, medical devices are the same thing. Think of a EKG machine. A lot of people say they feel tingling when the machine is actually analyzing. And honestly, I feel tingling when I've had an EKG done. So I can relate to people who say that, but there's actually like no evidence of that actually happening. It might be just a psychological thing, or it could be something that just maybe can't be measured. Other equipment, might have other things like MRIs. Some people are very sensitive to magnetic fields, and they choose to live in areas that have very few radio frequency emissions. There's a huge community out by the Green Bank Observatory in West Virginia. You're not allowed to have a cell phone on within a certain distance of the observatory. So, because that observatory is actually listening for radio waves from outer space. So, yeah, you don't want to have conflicting signals that the equipment would pick up. But people are sensitive to that. We might not think of it every day because we're around technology, but other people feel they're extremely sensitive. All right, the waterfall method. So this method is the most commonly used method when doing project management. If you create your Gantt charts and you notice that as you're going through your schedule, you're kind of falling down, you're trending downward with this chart. And at the beginning, it kind of there's longer tasks that so it kind of slowly starts to go down, but as soon as you're getting close to the end of the project, the tasks become quicker and quicker. And so it's like you're actually falling down a waterfall. So you can think of it as you can't go the step down until you complete the previous step. In our book, I believe it's on page 188. You can see a picture of basic, well, I won't say basic, but major tasks that you have to complete before moving on to the next one. And you go down as you go to the right. As time moves forward, you're going down the tasks. Stage gates are go or no go decision points. These are, you can consider them milestones, but really they're checkpoints. You want to see if you should keep moving forward or cut your losses. So if you're doing a building, you're not going to just start building the building. You're going to check the ground, make sure it's capable of holding the weight of the building. You're going to be making sure permits are okay. If you're probably going to do an environmental study. All these things can be done before you start building, and you make a decision each time you get the results of these tests, for example. Do you move forward or do you not? So the go or no go. So same thing with like surgery. If the person's blood pressure is too high or they weigh too much, which would increase mortality of the surgery, or there's a whole bunch of things where, let's say, a surgeon would consider before doing the procedure, and the nursing staff would go through the same thing. The medical assistants or whoever is helping, anesthesiology, all the other ones are basically going to make sure everything is right before they even knock the person out, let's say. So, because if anything is wrong and the decision is not to move forward, they can not move forward before it gets to that point. The final one that we usually see here is this agile or iterative development. Most of the time, we see this in software where you're delivering, let's say, a version one, version two, version three of the software. Uh, Make an example. Apple, with their iOS system, is on version 16. At least that's my understanding. I don't have an Apple device, but you can take a look at it and see, okay, well, version one had these features, version two had these features, and so on and so forth. Well, they couldn't just go jump straight to 16 because that would take too long to get the product out. So sometimes you need to put it out in little chunks, functional chunks, so that way you can keep your customers happy. And sometimes this is done because of budget constraints, where there's only approval for a certain amount of budget until, let's say, you get version one out. Then you're starting to sell that version, and then you're developing version two using the profits or revenue from version one being sold. But it's these iterations, especially in software, are relatively quick. Agile is usually about 2 weeks per iteration, and they're really trying to get some quick wins. That's what they're going for. Agile is a whole nother specialty in the way of doing project management. And if you're interested in project management, this is a great area to take a look at. Some of you guys might like the fast pacedness needed for Agile. And yeah, you can have a major impact here. All right. Chapter 18, Sustainability and Green Effort in Healthcare. Well, there's been a major push for hospitality, or not hospitality, excuse me, green and sustainability. You know, we're all trying to reduce costs, and if we can, we want to use reusable devices, but that's not always the case, especially since COVID started. Well, yeah, COVID came around. Everything now in healthcare is essentially disposable because you don't want that cross contamination. Now, before, for example, a blood pressure cuff. those used to get cleaned and reused patient after patient after patient, but now they're disposable. So we have to take a look at, okay, well, that's disposable, but is it recyclable? Does it have to go with, let's say, biohazard waste, or can it just go in the regular recycling chain or recycling stream? And we do this because it may end up being a cost savings. Not always, especially since COVID and everything went disposable, but the big push for green was the cost savings. For example, if your building is using a old HVAC system, well, if you replaced it with a more modern system or top of the line system of today, you're probably going to see a reduced electric bill because of the technology that has come along. So, as an example, my grandmother had a air conditioning system or a full HVAC system that lasted her 30 years before it needed to be replaced. That was back when stuff was made to last. Now it's just made 5 7 years as the average life of an HVAC system. But it was such an energy using device. When my grandma replaced the unit because it did hit 30 years, it finally did give out on her. She saw a dramatic decrease in her cost savings on her electricity, where in the first year she almost got her return on her investment in full. I think it probably took her about 16 months to actually make back the money that she spent on the new unit. So these are the kind of things that we look at. LED lighting, motion sensors to turn off lights when a room is not occupied. In Reynolds Hall, it was built to energy efficiency standards. So they're looking at the green side, the building's impact on the environment, plus sustainability of the utilities it's using. In Reynolds Hall, which is where Stansbury Hall used to be, they're all LED lights. There's motion sensors on the lights, so the hallway lights will shut off if no one's walking down the hallway. The restrooms will turn off their lights, except for like a night light when there's it's unoccupied. Motion activated water spigots, and so on and so forth. There's just so much that can be done within healthcare that it could have a positive impact on the bottom line, as most businesses and executives are concerned with, but also on patient care. So we usually look at facilities, and that's why I mentioned Reynolds Hall. But one of the bigger efforts that are being looked at now is personal habits. Do you turn off the lights when you leave a room? What about the temperature of the room? Think about your own house. Do you turn off the light when you leave the room? Do you, if you're only going to be walking in the room, grabbing something and leaving, do you even bother to turn on the light? Some people will, some people won't. And I'm not trying to judge anybody or make anybody feel bad for their current personal habits, but it's something to consider, right? So, room temperatures. They say during the summer you should set your house at about 78 because that's going to be more energy efficient. Well, I'm sorry, I don't like the temperature 78. I would rather have like 72 to 74, but my wife would love to have 85 in the house. So we compromise and we're closer to 80. But that is one way we're reducing our energy usage. So that's going to reduce how much energy that the electric company has to produce and the amount of coal, since most of the plants in West Virginia are ran by coal, how much coal is used, which would then reduce how much coal is needed to be pulled out of the ground, and so on and so forth. We can look at so many different angles here. So, one of the biggest ways to do green and sustainability is through purchasing and sourcing of the materials you need for your projects. So you're going to have to work with your supply chain folks or your procurement department to do this. And this effort is really led by the executive team of your organization. If they care about it, then procurement is going to care about it. If you, as a project manager, care about it, but no one else in your organization is, it's not going to be as successful as it can be. So it has to be from the top down. It can't be just something that's put out as a press release or a memo to everybody or an all hands email. It has to be a concerted effort. And like I said, purchasing and sourcing are generally the area that impacts this the most. And your procurement professionals will know how to do this. They just have to be given the latitude to make it happen. Chapter 19. So, the application of Agile in the healthcare environment. So, like I mentioned about Agile in Chapter 17, Agile is about incremental deliverables or iterations. So, you probably heard the phrasing eating an elephant one bite at a time. And that's what Agile is. We can't just complete the entire project in one go. We do little chunks, which total to the entire project. So, think about something you've done that you've some big thing you've done and that you broke it down into little parts and did it that way. So if it was a project around the house, you might have done it a little bit at a time over, let's say, multiple weeks or whatnot. I'm working on that right now. I'm reorganizing the garage and I'm trying to clean out the junk first before I start moving things around in there. So it's a little bit more daunting, but I'm getting these quick wins. You can see later in the slide here. Um, so it's looking cleaner in my garage, which is what I want, but it's making things easier for later when I'm rearranging things because I'll have less to rearrange later. And this could be something you guys do in your projects, using this agile methodology. But like I mentioned earlier, usually projects with limited or contingent funding, such as you have a customer who you're doing this project for, and they're only giving you money to do certain parts of it at a time. And once you complete those parts, then they give you more funding to complete the next step, and so on and so forth. So that's why we have the contingent funding because it's usually contingent on the completion of a previous step or limited. Maybe you guys don't have a project, a budget, or it's extremely limited in where you don't have enough money to do the entire thing, but you can do little bits and pieces as funding becomes available. And of course, we do quality projects. So you guys might have done a Kaizen event where you basically do a quality improvement or a continuous improvement project in a week or 2 weeks. It's an extremely fast, everybody's focused on it, and you get the big wins from doing the Kaizen. Kaizen is a Japanese word for the continuous improvement projects. So yeah, that is agile. Agile is all about the quick wins and doing them. And when I say quick, it's usually a week or two. If it goes much longer than that, then it's not really quick. It takes too long. But it's a great method to make an impact. Jump in with both feet, get part of the job done, and that way you can say you have that success. So yeah, chapter 19 is really where we're looking at for where to go next with project management is these agile methodologies. While we do have the traditional waterfall, agile is becoming more and more popular because of the quick wins, and you can do it with a smaller amount of money or resources and still get a deliverable. It's not the full deliverable, as I keep mentioning. It's usually little steps towards that deliverable. Eating that elephant one bite at a time. All right, so discussion 8. So honestly, I want to hear your thoughts on the course. This is the second time that HMBA 614 was ran. It was BADM 614 until they switched it this semester to HMBA. So this is the second time, and it's your feedback is what's going to make it better for the next group. For example, these videos are based on feedback from the first run. Yes, these videos are a project where I want to continue to develop them and make them better, but I need your thoughts on that. What do you want to know more about? Do you want me to go more in depth in certain areas? Do you want me to keep the videos to no longer than 30 minutes? Or do you want the videos to be an hour, like a classroom session? I try to keep them short. I think my longest one maybe went 40 minutes, but the goal is to make it where you guys can maybe watch these during a lunch or something like that, or even listen to them as when you're working doing other things. I don't want to make it a classroom because you guys signed up for a online asynchronous style class. So I want to try to keep to that mindset by giving you guys little chunks. Maybe you guys want me to um, break it down into individual chapters and have a little bit longer on each chapter. I need you guys to tell me because you guys are the learners. You guys, I can think it's a great plan, but I'm not you. So it's your education. I want you guys to give me feedback on it. I hope that will tell me what you guys give you an idea of where maybe you want to make comments on. Regardless of what you comment, whether it's positive or negative, you're going to get full points this week for the discussion. I just want some sincere and honest feedback. So don't worry about citations or references or anything like that because I'm going to give you full points anyway because I want that feedback and I don't want you guys having to worry that you say something, let's say unpopular, and I'm going to mark you down for that. So don't worry, I'm not going to do that. I just want your honest feedback. So, but if you don't feel like posting it, um, just post something saying, well, actually, I'd rather you guys post it because then other people can say, yeah, that's a great idea or not. So post it. If there's something that you feel that you don't want to share with the entire class, which is up to you, I'm not sure what area that might cover, but you can always send me an email and I will respond to you. But please do put some comments in the discussion board. All right. So if there's anything else I can do for you, I'll probably make one more video after the semester is done, which is actually this Friday. So Friday is the deadline. That is the last day of classes. I believe I have to have grades posted by Monday or so for this semester. And yeah, I appreciate you guys attending and look forward to seeing you guys at graduation or commencement, as they tell me it's called. Commencement, probably, anyway. It's another word for graduation in this case, or another substitute for that. Yeah, reach out if you need to, and I look forward to giving you guys one more video after the semester is ended. All right, you guys take it easy, and see you in the next one.